Oh, yeah. You guys know what time it is. I wasn't even going to do another one of these, but then something awesome happened, and I had to share it with you guys. Stretch it out. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Mark Kweppett Speaks. I am your host, Mark Kweppett, and I am here to light a fire in your belly and help you sharpen your will so that you can unleash your apex potential and go all in on life. And for those of you who like that intro, I personally love that intro. It's created by a good friend of mine, Brian Hegney, who has his music career is taking off. So check him out. His handle is Now That I Am, and you can check him out on Spotify, Now That I Am. And he's got a few new songs out, and they're pretty awesome. So, all right, today we're doing something pretty freaking sweet, at least in my opinion, because something happened to me when doing this thing. So let me just set the stage for you. Okay, so we're going to be doing an exercise. All right, I want you to follow along with me. You can get through it pretty quick if you want. If you want to skip all of me doing the exercise, I'll give you the timestamps somewhere around there if you want to skip ahead. But please just try this out, because I think this could unlock some stuff for you. This could allow for some breakthroughs for you. And as we're approaching the end of this year and getting ready for the next year, I would love for you guys to have a similar sort of breakthrough and clarity that I got out of doing this. And it doesn't take long, and it's kind of fun. Like, in order for this exercise to work, you kind of have to not know what the next step is. So don't cheat. Don't cheat and read the comments and figure out and spoil it for yourself, and try to avoid spoiling it for people in the comments, like what the twist is. So yeah, just be warned. So anyway, let's get into this. So I'm taking a program right now. It's called Influence Academy, and it's put on by this guy, Perry Marshall, who I really like, and I'll be talking about more about him in a second. And it's basically just for people who've got a desire to have a big impact in the world, how to go about developing your systems and mindset and clarity in order to make that happen. And as I was doing it the other day, we had one of the group sessions, and he had us do this exercise, and it was really simple. He's like, just list your top 5 biggest inspirations, and then list down the adjectives that would describe those people. And I was like, okay, well, and then we did it, and we talked through it, and then we moved to the next part of the exercise, and that's the part that blew my mind. So if you want to just go ahead and do that, go ahead and write down your top 5 inspirations. You could do 5 to 10, however many you want. For me, I got 7 here. I'll go through, and this is really valuable. This is useful. It's kind of like the Napoleon Hill has kind of like a technique like this, where you think about the people you look up to, the mentors, and you can kind of keep them in your brain and imagine that they're like they can talk to you and help you figure out the best things that you should do and that kind of thing. And that's not exactly what we're going to be doing here, but that's sort of the vein. So think of the people that you admire most, the people who have had a big impact on you that you really look up to, and just write them down, okay? And if you want, you can skip me talking about the ones that I've written down and just go to the next part of the exercise. So let's see, what were mine? I've got, I guess, technically 8 here. I only got 3 real people, and the rest are all fictional characters. So you can do fictional characters as well, because sometimes the archetype that is captured in a fictional character is almost more true than anything you might see in the world, because it's so distilled and so boiled down and essential in a lot of ways, and it can be obviously controlled by the author so that it really represents whatever it is that they're trying to create. So you can do that, but my first 3 are all real people, because that's what I was thinking of first. And I don't know if I would put these all. I don't even know what order I would put these in, but this is the order we're doing. So First two are business ones that I'm really invested in. One of them is Perry Marshall, who I mentioned already, whose program I'm doing here. He's like, he got big in like building like being one of the first like AdWords guys, and then he's built like his whole new Renaissance thing. And if you're into like business, you got to check him out. He's like the master of like the 80-20 principle and applying it to business. He's got some good copywriting stuff, a lot of good ad stuff. And lately he's been expanding into a lot of other things. He's even like now branching off into tackling evolutionary theory in his book, Evolution 2.0, which is, I haven't had the time to read that yet, but that's very interesting. He's, very inspiring to me in a lot of ways. And then the other one is Ben Settle. And if you're into business, you're into copywriting, particularly information-based businesses, or you want to become a copywriter or anything like that, check him out. And the reason why I love him is because he's a very unique dude. Like he makes his own world. And the reason why I look up to him is because he creates his own world, his own brand. It's very unique. You can check it out. He's got his own style to everything. And this is something that I'm really trying to do, trying to create my universe. Like he's very much taking this like almost like a Dungeons and Dragons, like dungeon master mentality, and applied it to business, where you really are engaging in full-fledged world building. And that's what you're trying to do. And that's what I'm trying to do with the Vanguard in many ways, trying to create this world that you can step into. And when you play in it, well, you can move through it and you can level up, and it can have real positive impacts in your actual life. Third one is Jordan Peterson. And I know it seems to become trendy to hate on Jordan Peterson, but it's weird in the way the trend has shifted. Like it's always been, everyone's always dumped on Jordan Peterson, at least from the mainstream perspective. But it seems many people even who are not on the mainstream perspective, who even once liked him, have now turned against him. Even guys like, I like and respect, don't seem to, be that impressed with him anymore. And I got to go back to like when he like stormed onto the public spotlight. So back in 2016, I remember seeing him talk. They're like, oh, check out this professor rail against Bill C-16. That was like the forced, the compulsory speech law in Canada, where it's like you have to address a transgender student by their preferred pronouns, or else you could risk punishment by law. And he was just like, you can't have compulsory speech. And he was like incredibly articulate, incredibly passionate. And like, he was able to see the depth of like how serious of a deal this was. Like, you can't just, brush aside freedom of speech at all. And he, the reason why he's always going to be a hero to me, regardless of, I've read his first, like, I think his book's Maps of Meaning is amazing. I think it's an unbelievable work. His other two books, they don't do it for me because I'm a systematic thinker, and they're just kind of like rules sort of just plopped out there, which I just hate content like that in general. But Maps of Meaning is the opposite of that. But it's a little bit denser. But the thing that I really admire about Jordan Peterson is that he made like nuance and very, very like clear articulation of your points cool again. And you have to remember like what was going on like around that period. That was like the same time that Jordan Peterson started to rise was around the time like, Trump, started to really rise and take off. Like that's when Trump became, back in 2016, that's when Trump, got into office and all that kind of stuff. And what was going on in politics at the time and in the world at large was just like facts stopped mattering. It's like in many ways, like you had Trump on one perspective, and then you had Trump on one side and Jordan Peterson on the other. And Trump is the epitome of like pure persuasion kind of technique. Like if you check out Scott Adams' like analysis of Trump's persuasion, if you're interested in it. But basically Trump knows how to move a crowd. He knows how to move emotions. He knows how to get a rise out of people. But he's not particularly truthful. He's not particularly nuanced. Sometimes he isn't, saying authentic things. Sometimes he's saying downright bad things. But he's very effective. He was able to get a lot of movement and a lot of stuff happen, okay? Jordan Peterson, on the other hand, is kind of like the total opposite. He's someone who's incredibly precise with their language, incredibly into the nuance, really trying to like refusing to straw man people, refusing to like use like cheap persuasion tactics or anything like that. Like he's like, you know, I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm going to give you my argument, and then I'll hear your argument. I'll acknowledge what I see in it, and then I'll come back again with my reformulated opinion. And it was just like, that was so important, because I think without him, in many ways, like everyone just would have went the Trump route of like, just, you know, call your opponent names and just say outrageous shit. And people started to do that. And like, if there wasn't some public counterbalancing force, I think we would have been in a very, very dangerous place. So I always respect him for that, regardless of what else he does. And I thought he was heroic for weathering the storm as well as he did. And there's very few people who could handle that level of criticism and hold their own, and in fact, in many ways, demolish the people who would attack him. So Jordan Peterson. Then now we're moving into the fictional characters here. Next up for me is Morpheus. You guys know that I'm a fan of the Matrix movies, at least the first one. The other two were all right, and we'll see about the fourth one. But I loved Morpheus from the Matrix movies because I always thought he was cooler than Neo, because he was like the mind opener. He was like the instigator of that person's awakening. And he was the one who pretty much like organized the whole resistance to the machines, right? To the machines taking over and leading that human resistance and awakening the heroes around him. And I just always thought he was like the coolest freaking dude. So I just love that kind of like awakener person who calls people to action, who calls people to adventure, that red pills them literally. He's the one who came up with he was the first deliverer of the red pill. That's where the whole idea of the red pill came from, was that scene where he gives Morpheus the choice, the red pill or the blue pill. And so he was the OG red pillar. And so, you know, I can't help but love that, right? Next up is Luffy from One Piece. Now, I actually got a number of anime characters on here, and call me a weeb, whatever, I'm fine with it. In many ways, I think anime has some of just the best content out there. It has some of the best storylines, best characters, at least according to my tastes and interests. And so Luffy from One Piece, I'll tell you why he inspires me. So One Piece, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's actually, I guess, technically like the second most popular like series ever, like after Harry Potter, which I didn't realize until I looked in. I was like, oh shit, this thing's actually huge. Although most people outside of who aren't familiar with anime have never heard of it. But yeah, it's a very, very long running series, and it's about this group of pirates, and they go on all these adventures and they do all these things. And one of the things I really like about it is kind of like the over the top machismo to it. Like there's a very clear characteristic around like what is considered like ideal sorts of characteristics, like boldness, willingness to stick by your friends, all that kind of shit. And a lot of it's kind of like juvenile. It's not like, I as an adult still very much enjoy it. I think it's very funny. But here's the part that really clicks with me, and him in particular. So in the show, there's a lot of characters and a lot of interaction, but there's never really any romance. And I read somewhere that like the people asked Oda, the author, I forget his full name, like why is there ever going to be any romance in this series? And he says no, because all of the characters are in love with adventure. And that strikes a chord with me, because like that's what I want to be, right? Like that's how I want to live, is living completely oriented to your mission, and having that mission be something big and bold that causes you to just want to expand and like reach for, you know, the highest star that you could reach for, the highest star that you think that is compelling, right? You think about your life, seriously, you got one life. What the fuck do you want to do with it? And that's what that series is all about. It's about people 100% dedicated to chasing that star, no matter how crazy of a challenge they have to take on to make it happen. So, and then the way that they go about doing it. So, Luffy, big fan. Next one is Goku. Okay, another anime character. For those of you who followed my stuff for a while, I love Dragon Ball Z. That was one of the shows I wasn't allowed to watch when I was a little kid, but I would sneak away and watch it and get all hyped up and just like start like beating the shit out of my brothers, just because it like filled me with like this thumos energy, this desire to fight, to engage. And Goku is he's kind of like a dumb, simple character. And what's cool, what I find I just like about him is that, like, yeah, he'll save the world if he has to, but really he just like wants to fight stronger people. That's literally all he cares about. Is he just wants to get stronger and stronger. And there's a part of like that in me, and I think in a lot of guys. I refer to myself sort of as like a moral megalomaniac, where it's like I just want to be stronger and I want to face bigger challenges and do bigger things. And so I see him really epitomizing that, and I love it. I think it strikes a chord with me, right? Next one, Doom Slayer from the Doom games, and this one, like when the first like Doom reboot, like recent reboot was, I think Doom. Was that 2016 when it came out? Might have been back then too. I loved that, because what they did is they just added like the Doomslayer, for those of you who don't know, he's like this, Marine that somehow gets like imbued with like these crazy like powers, like basically like he's like has the power to then like go kill demons and stuff like that. And that's all cool and badass and shit like that, and I like that. But what I really like about it was that like his character embodies momentum to me. And the reason I like that so much is because I've been very stuck at different points in my life, and my tendency, particularly when I was younger, would be to kind of freeze up and retreat and just like go back and just like spin and swirl and just, not get anything good happening. I would just get locked up. And the Doomslayer is the opposite of that. He's just move, 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 go, go, go. And literally in the game, especially when you play on the harder difficulties, if you hold still, you die. You have to keep moving. And in real life, what I like about that is that it's kind of true. It's like you just got to pick your next flow state. What's the next thing? Even if it's a small thing like going and, all right, now it's time to go have lunch. All right. Or now it's time to, we're done having lunch. Let's go and just start thinking about that project we got to do now, or blah, blah, blah. Just like one flow state to the next flow state to the next flow state. Even if that next flow state is planning your next 7 flow states, i.e. planning your day. And so like that, I just love that. And just like the violence and commitment to making that happen. If you ever played the games, you can see he doesn't slow down. He's all gas, no brakes. And I'm not saying that that's exactly how you want to behave in life, but I think if you get good enough at it, you kind of can. Like I don't know if you ever have to really slow down if like you want to keep going faster. You just have to learn how to be better at moving faster. It's a skill. So that's a Doomslayer. And then the final one, I got to put it on here, and it hurts me to do it. This is gonna crown me #1 weeb for life, but I got to put Naruto in there. I'm sorry. I followed him like, when I was young and impressionable all the way for years and years and years. And ultimately what I think he actually represents in many ways is like this, what I'm trying to get at in my protagonism philosophy, this idea of, all right, we're going to pursue goodness and we're going to pursue the power to create goodness. And the heart of it all is dignity, right? And so that's really what that show is about to me. It's like finding the dignity in individuals in this ugly, screwed up world, and showing how that can not only make you stronger, but it forms the connections and the bonds that make it so that you become unstoppable. And a person who really embodies this kind of stuff, they eventually get to the point where they can essentially cloak other people in their strength. And that's kind of how the series culminated. If you follow it toward the end, he kind of masters his powers, and spoiler alerts, he then is able to actually cloak other people in his power, like literally give it to them and then empower them and level them up and all this kind of shit. And he's always trying to save his enemies to where he can and all that kind of thing. And, you know, morally, that just speaks to me. Call it cheesy, call it, you know, whatever you want. But that archetype there is a lot deeper than just like a Saturday morning cartoon for kids and the depth to which they take it and explore it. At least I think so. So, all right. Those are mine. And, you know, I put them in there, and I don't know if I had all of them. I think I might not have had Morpheus at the time. But no, yeah, I did. I just didn't. I don't think I talked about it because I wanted to keep it to just 5. When I was on the call. So here's the next part of the exercise. So lay out all your things first. Don't watch this part till you do this. If you want to do this exercise, lay out your top 5 inspirations or top 7 or whatever it is, why you like them. And now the interesting part here is that you want to look at all of these people and realize that this is you, okay? You're not just saying the things that you like. You are creating a map of who you are supposed to be, what your ideal self looks like. That's what you just did. Because the reason each one of those people resonated with you strongly was because they represented some ideal that you are meant to embody. And like when he said that, I was just like, what? It just hit me so hard because it's something that I knew, but to then have it spelled out so clearly, like what it was that I liked about each of those people, it made me realize, oh, that's me. That's authentic me, completely fleshed out. And of course, maybe there's some extremes and nuance not captured in that list. But in general, that's like what you should be aiming for, is kind of like a combination of those things. And what you can then do is you can start looking through that list and say, all right, what's the common thread between all of these, right? What's the common thread? And for me, I look at that list and it's just like, in some ways, this might be frightening and sort of devastating because I look at that, it's like, holy shit, all these people do everything the hard way. And they often end up going through hell. And it's just like, fuck, okay, all right, well, I guess that's something that, I kind of knew that I'm ready for. But these people, this group, they're all like, bring it on. If I got to walk through hell to get to where I want to go, then bring it the fuck on. Let's do it. And so that's really what opened my eyes, is like, okay, I got to take that seriously. And I think I want all of you guys, whatever you're finding the common thread, what are you not taking seriously enough in yourself, right? Like I look at this group of people I mentioned. They're also all like, they're very much themselves. Like they're very much just like, okay, here's who I am. This is what I do, and don't get in my way. If you do, you're gonna be sorry, because I'm really good at what I do, and part of what I do is get people out of my way. And so, but it's with a good intention. It's all for the good. I'm not the kind of person who idolizes villains at all. I like villains. Like a good villain is fantastic. Like, the Joker from the Christopher Nolan Batman series, like an amazing villain. I wouldn't put him as an inspiration, except for maybe in the fact that how free he is, right? How authentic he is to himself. But the other pieces, I don't really like that so much. So for me, it's very much a kind of like moral warrior sort of vibe, with revolutionary elements to it, right? That's the Morpheus thing and the awakening thing. And you look back at it and it's like, okay, yeah, considering what I do, I see this. I see this a lot and I love it. And so I'm curious, like, let me know what sort of threads did you see in your group? What are you feeling? What are you thinking, right? When you see this group and you realize, oh, wow, this is supposed to be me on some level. Now, we can take this exercise even further, and this is another part of the exercise Perry took us through, was you can kind of do a similar thing by thinking back to something that you really wanted when you were a kid. Thinking back to, all right, what was that one toy, or what was that thing that that thing I saw and I just wanted, but I just didn't have the money for, right? What was it? So for some of you, maybe it's like a certain kind of guitar, or maybe it was a car, or maybe it was, a certain really cool pair of sneakers or whatever it is. For me, it was like having clothes that like really fit, which is a weird thing to say, because I didn't really have that so much, especially once I hit puberty and hit my growth spurt. I just, I was in Catholic school my whole life, so I always had a uniform on. But when I wasn't in uniform, I didn't have I didn't really have clothes that fit me well, because I'm a very tall guy and a big guy, like 6'4", and long torso and all this kind of thing. And so it wasn't until like several years ago when I hired Tanner Guzzi. I actually have an interview with him, the masculine style coach or whatever. And it seemed like it was like something that I felt like was just so dumb that like, man, I just like, I don't feel good about what I wear. I want to look better. I want to present myself better. I want to feel good in, how I get myself dressed each day and that kind of thing, because I just went through life knowing that I looked kind of silly, but not really knowing how to fix it. And always with this idea of like, thinking about clothes for more than 5 seconds and spending more than $7 on a shirt means you're an idiot. And so going through that process, like, it was kind of weird and difficult and whatever. And eventually I just had to realize, I can't buy clothes at normal stores, and found the clothes that I did. And it was more work and discomfort than I could have imagined. But what ended up happening was that once I finally got it, there was a huge emotional impact. And the emotional impact was recognizing, I wanted something to fit me, right? And that's kind of like a theme that I think I've had in my life, was like this idea of, life's not really going to fit you, okay? And you can't really find your fit. And you just kind of, to spend too much time worrying about it, it's the wrong thing. And like my mother, God bless her soul, like this is kind of like how she raised me. Like it was always like I just wanted to be an action hero. I just wanted to beat up bad guys. Like as a little kid, I was always in character. I'd combat roll into every room. I had like a, turkey baster. That was my sword. I stuck it in my little sweatpants, and, I just always down for a fight as a little kid. And, my mom, she was always trying to guide me into something that she could trust I would make a good money with, right? So it's like if I wanted to be a firefighter, or if I wanted to be an artist, it's like if I said I wanted to be an artist, she's like, no, what you really want to be is a plastic surgeon. They're like artists and they make a lot more money, and they have to use their artistic skills. Or it's like, oh no, you don't want to be a firefighter. You want to be the head of the public safety commission or whatever. Like she was always trying to like funnel me into something that fit her vision. Because the thing that I felt called to be, it didn't fit her vision. It didn't feel safe for her to have her baby pursue that, right? And it's like, when I was getting ready for college, I was just addicted to video games. Like, I don't know, I like video games. And she's like, okay, well, you can't do video games, obviously. So computer science, that's what you want to do. Maybe you make video games and that sort of thing. And so I did that, and it took me a while to realize, oh shit, this isn't fitting me either. Like none of this stuff fits me. Nothing fits. And so by like thinking that through, realizing that in a lot of ways, even my business hasn't really fit. I've always been trying to fit into models and stuff put forth by other people. So, I've tried a bunch of different things, particularly over this last year. I did videos every single day. I tried a membership community the way that other people set it up. I tried, tweaking this, that, and the other thing. And mostly because I didn't trust myself to be able to just do what I wanted to do, and really giving myself permission to figure it out. And sometimes I did, and I was just trying stuff. Just, sometimes you're not going to know what's going to fit you. And that was definitely part of it, me doing experiments and things like that. But realizing that, hey, that's what I want more than anything, is to get that acknowledgement that I am different in myself, just as all of you are different. But for me in particular, I felt chafed by the expectations that I allowed to be put upon me. And maybe some of you guys have a similar thing. And so that exercise, going through this process, the thing I wanted as a kid, okay, what if I got it? And so for you, if it was something like a car, if it was something like a guitar or whatever, ask yourself, what did I like about that? What did it represent to me? What was the aesthetic there that really lit me on fire? That really filled me with some kind of something? Like what about that thing vibrated with me, right? And so doing that and then asking yourself, well, what could that represent? What does that represent in terms of like what I'm not realizing in myself now? Okay. Because chances are there's something still there. There's something still to it. And really, these two exercises, they're just about ways to connect with your ideal self. Like, what does your ideal self really look like? So for me, it's, kind of being pretty far out there. And I've got plans in place to hopefully kick things up several notches in 2022. I'm very excited for what's coming. I'm going to be uploading significantly more now that I'm through with the Reforged Man cohort and got my eyes set on some really fun stuff this year. So hopefully you continue to follow along. But I'm interested to see what you guys do. Okay, what are you going to be taking up a notch, right? What does it look like if you really took your ideal seriously? And then this opens up a deeper conversation then where it's like, oh shit, well, like my ideal is this combination of all these mythical or, fantastical people who are miles away from where I am at. So how do I manage this transition? How do I actually get up there, right? Because who I am right now is nowhere near these people that I'm idolizing or these characteristics that I'm chasing. And I think a lot of it actually is humility. So just going back to that clothing example, like I felt stupid doing it, and I put it off for years because I just had it in my head, like, it's dumb to care about your clothes, or it's dumb to go back and forth. And like, if you buy a shirt, it's silly that you would put all that time into, going back and replacing it and trying another one and ordering multiple things and, offline returning part of them to figure out which ones fit, which ones don't. Like for me, it was actually a nightmare. Just because I didn't know what the hell I was doing and I didn't understand sizing and all that kind of crap. Like I was a very clueless person. And so it was the thing I had to get through was my own self-judgment about something that I clearly felt there was energy around. All right. And so I think this is probably what it is for most of you, is that you have the answer, you have the pathway right in front of you. There's a great book. Well, I don't know if it's a great book. I haven't read it, but I love the title. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. By Ryan Holiday. I think it's probably a pretty good one, just based upon that title. But that sentiment is it. You're going to feel these things that come up and block you, and you're going to look at them and you're going to be like, that's too stupid. That can't block me. But the thing is, inside of that, you're going to find something valuable if you give it the dignity to engage with it. So another place that this happened to me before in my life was I was like OCD. Like this is when I was like earlier in my business career. I was very, very OCD about my to-do list. And the reality was, well, I won't tell you the reality, but what happened was like I just would consistently feel overwhelmed. I felt like it was too much between creating the videos, editing them, uploading them, trying to run my mailing list, trying to scale the business, trying to create products, coach people, all this kind of stuff. I just felt like constantly overwhelmed. I was like, oh, well, clearly I got to get my planning down. I got to learn how to plan and organize. And, in order to do that, I needed the right tool. And I literally spent 6 weeks one time doing no other work other than just trying productivity software and outliners and shit like that and swirling around trying to create my own productivity system. And I felt like I was actually going crazy, and I was hating myself and judging myself the whole time, because this had actually happened in little spurts prior to this, and I always shut it down because I was like, you're a stupid idiot, stop messing around with this stuff and just get going, blah, blah, blah. And it was my resistance to fully taking that problem all the way through that kept me stuck, in the same way that the resistance to looking at my clothing, it kept me stuck on some level. And so it's the way that you get up to that ideal where you're like, oh gosh, that's so above me, is actually, I believe, by looking at the problems that seem too far below you. All right. The things that you feel ashamed to struggle with. I think those are the things that probably are holding you back the most. Because I know for me, that's what they were. Another one's video games. I just refused to really, really address that in my life. And it just held me back for way too long because I wasn't able to get real with myself about, you're not going to be the person that you want to be while you're heavily playing video games. And so I had to really give myself the time to work through that sincerely and not judge myself during the process. And so it's chances are the biggest things in your way are very humble ones that, like, if you were going to talk to them about someone, you'd feel a little embarrassed. But that's how you do it. Like, that's why they're holding you back, because they are beneath you in some ways. They are. But it's like, you can't let that cause you to reject yourself. It's like a form of conditional love, where it's like you're saying, oh, well, since you have this petty problem, that means that you're unworthy of getting that problem solved. Just the fact that you have it isn't like makes you unworthy of your own love and unworthy of your own sacrifice. And as long as you let that poison your brain, then you're severely stunting yourself. So give yourself the dignity to do it. Okay. So that's what I have for you guys in this episode. Hopefully you got some value out of this. I don't know when the next upload's going to be, just because got some holiday stuff coming up here. Hopefully you all have a wonderful Christmas season. Maybe I'll be able to sneak one more in here somewhere. But stay tuned, all right? Because I'm going to be having more stuff rolling out. Like I said, big plans for 2022. And I appreciate you all. I appreciate you all following me. Many of you have followed me for a long time. I'm incredibly grateful for that. And I hope to continue to earn your attention in a big way moving forward here. So I'm trying to think if there's anything worth mentioning as well. New Reforged Man cohort. I mean, the first one, it went amazing. People are, blown away by the content, if I can say that without sounding egotistical, and they're very excited for it. So I'm very excited for it. The next one's going to be launching in February. So pay attention if you want to get in on that. If you're really ready to quit porn for good and use the best system that exists in the world today for making it happen, well, then make sure you check that out. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Ooh, yeah.